Okay, and the floor is yours, Emily.
Awesome. Well, I am so excited to be here today, guys. I am going to share my screen and my presentation. If you have ever sat through a presentation with me before, you know that I am a little technologically challenged, so I'm going to attempt to do this. Let us hope that this works. And every single time this scares me because it doesn't. Aha! Okay, whoopa, we're working. So this is called Crush Your Interviews. This is me. Hi, I'm Emily. I know that doesn't look like me anymore, but I assure you it is. I am the campus recruiter for the Mid-Atlantic region here at CBiz. So I cover our Philadelphia and New York metro offices. We do have 5 offices in the New York metro region. We've got 2 in Manhattan, 1 in Long Island, 1 in Purchase, and 1 in Parsippany, New Jersey. So if you live anywhere in the New York metropolitan region, we have an office for you. My email is not there, but you'll have it at the end. Please let me know that you're here. If you're interested in hearing from me, again, please go ahead, sign in. All I really need, your first name, your last name, and your email address. There are a few other questions on that form. You do not need to upload your resume. If you do, that's fantastic. I love it, and I appreciate it, but basically all I need, your first name, your last name, your email address. If at any point during this presentation you have questions, please go ahead, unmute yourself and ask them. I unfortunately can't really see while I'm presenting you raising your hand or you putting in the chat, but we can also answer all questions at the end, whatever works for y'all. But like I said, scan the QR code. We're going to go ahead and get into it. I'm going to give you a brief overview of CBiz. We're going to go over some interviewing basics. We're going to go over some types of interviews, how to make a good impression, interviewing tips, and then we'll have questions at the end. So a little bit about CBiz. We are a mid-sized financial services provider. So we are not just accounting and tax. We are also benefits and insurance. We will go over that in a second. This does need to be slightly updated, but we are sitting at over 120 offices nationwide. You can kind of see we look a little busy over here in the Northeast. We've got quite a few offices up here, but you can also see we are spread across the United States. Something that's pretty exciting. Somebody told me recently we've done close to 30 or so acquisitions, something like that. It was a very high number in the past 2 years. So we've done quite a few, or 3 years. We've done quite a few acquisitions. So that being said, we are constantly, adding new team members, which is really awesome. But we are sitting at closer to 7,000 team members. That's quite a few. And we have over 120,000 clients. I think that's something that is really, really unusual and cool about CBiz is the fact that starting from when you are an intern, you are not just working on one engagement at a time. So I know typically with accounting firms, you work on one engagement, one client at a time, and you might work on that client for years. But here at CBiz, you do work on a variety of clients from the time that you join us. So you may be working on a small business, you may be working on an individual, you may be working on another mid-sized company all at the same time. So it gives you a lot of exposure, which is really awesome. Another exciting update for you guys. It's the beginning of the year, so I can share this now. In 2023, we won 100 workplace awards. So that was our goal for the year. So we're really pumped about that, and definitely increased our number up from 84. So we're very excited about that. And the other exciting update I can provide you guys is that we've donated over 13 million pounds of food since 2009. So we like to say that we out-national the locals and out-local the nationals here at CBiz. And part of that is really giving back to our community. So whether that's through volunteer work, canned food drives, Dress for Success campaigns, things like that, that all contributes. 2 sides of the business, financial and accounting. So that's going to be your audit, your tax, advisory, valuation, risk services, all that stuff, financial services. Benefits and insurance. It's kind of exactly what it sounds like. Benefits, insurance, human resource management, payroll services, things like that. There's a third bubble. You'll never see it on any official material, but that is our corporate. So that's going to be C-suite, IT, HR, those kinds of things. We are headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio. Our headquarters, beautiful. It's brand new. If you don't follow us on LinkedIn, I definitely suggest doing so because there are a lot of pictures of our new headquarters. And I'm not kidding when I say it is literally one of the most beautiful buildings I've ever seen in my whole entire life. Okay, why CBiz? So we are more than accounting. I just mentioned there are 2 sides of us, so benefits and insurance and financial services. We do have those national resources with more of that local feel. Our staffing model, it's a little different than your typical accounting firm. So typically with accounting firms, you have a partner and they sit at the top. fun fact about CBiz, we are actually publicly traded. So because we are publicly traded, that means that we can't have partners. So instead, we have what we call managing directors. A managing director is basically the same level as a partner. They are just called something different because we are publicly traded. Now, that being said, a very, very cool benefit that is, I think really specific to CBiz, because we are publicly traded, you can buy stock as an employee. That is so cool. I heard that it does make you a few bucks on the side. So that is really exciting. Somebody gave me the exact rate of return and it was pretty high, and I was pretty impressed. So that's definitely a benefit that you should take advantage of if you are one of our employees. Again, like I said, because you are working on different clients, you do have a really nice client variety, which means that you have more exposure. The other thing about CBiz, obviously, I'm talking about how we have all these different lines of services, right? Which means that your career can not only grow upward, but it can also grow outward. So, you can continue to move up the ranks, but you can also say that you've been doing audit. You've been doing that for 3 years and you're like, man, I love auditing, but you know what I want to do? I want to do advisory. Great. We have jobs, obviously, in advisory. So you can explore those options too. So it's a way for you to work up and work out. Okay. Oh, the other thing that I meant to mention before we move on from the slide, we also, because we are publicly traded, we do have, you'll see it says CBiz and MHM. MHM is our auditing services. So if you are in audit, you are part of Myers, Hoffman, McCann, and that is who does our auditing work. Let's see. Why does this not want to go? Okay, here we go. Recruitment process. Visiting us on campus. Yay! You're here today. That's awesome. We're visiting together. The other thing is that I will be doing the Queen's Hybrid Career Fair. So definitely, if you don't get your question answered today, you could definitely connect with me there. Can't get rid of me. I'm still going to be there. So excited to join you there this spring as well. Discover CBiz. So Discover CBiz is one of 2 flagship events that we have here at CBiz. It is an opportunity for you to learn more about the firm, for you to learn to meet with professionals, from you to hear from our leadership. It's great. It's one day. It's virtual. Little birdie told me it's at the end of May. If you're interested in that, hit me up. I'm happy to tell you more about it. You can go to CBiz Jobs and you can see what openings we have. I update those pretty regularly, so you can kind of see what you are eligible for. I will let you know that as of right now, I am recruiting mostly for 2024 associates, so full-time hires, and 2025 internships. Our internship slots for 2025 are going kind of fast, and we do, review applications on a rolling basis. So if that's something that you're interested in, definitely apply sooner rather than later. I would say the latest that you should be applying is March 31st. And then the other thing that you can do, you can stay connected with our national recruiting team. That is their email right there. You can also just email me directly. That's totally fine. If you are interested in an office that's outside of the New York metro region or outside of the Philly region, I can get you in touch with that recruiter. Absolutely no worries. You'll have my email at the end, but this is our national recruiting team email as well. Okay, interviewing basics, everybody's favorite thing. So the purpose of an interview, you're an investment. You really are. We're going to spend our time, we're going to spend our resources on you because we think that you're going to perform well, right? So we want to make sure that you're a good fit for us, we're a good fit for you, everybody's a good fit for everybody. It allows a company to see what an application cannot tell us, right? So when you send in your resume is very, very colorless. There's no color to your resume. It's just very basic. This is my job. This is what I do. This is what campus activities I'm involved in. It's very, very basic. What it can't tell us, your personality, how your communication skills are, your body language, how you answer behavioral questions, and how you respond to behavioral situations. It really allows you to bring your resume to life. Right? It allows you to put that, the stories behind, how you may have gotten your job, or, what kind of activities are you involved with, and how do you, have leadership roles in those activities, things like that. So it's a way for you to really bring your resume to life. It also allows you the opportunity to assess us, right? We're interviewing you. You're also interviewing us. It's a two-way street, my friends. So, things that you should keep in mind when you're thinking about, when you're talking to companies, the kind of interview questions that they ask you, what the personalities of the interviewers are like. I will say that a lot of times when you're interviewing, you are usually interviewing with members of the team that you would be working with, which is really awesome because you can kind of see like what their personalities are like. Are you vibing with them? Are we not vibing with them? How do they make you feel? Are we getting like, yay, I'm so excited, butterflies? Or are we getting like, this is a red flag and my tummy is upset kind of vibes? So it really allows you to assess the company. And then you also have time usually to ask some questions at the end. We'll talk about questions a little bit later. Okay. Interview questions. So you should be prepared to answer a variety of questions. This can be things like administrative questions, or if you've ever been on a phone screen with me, I call them HR related questions. So that's things like your graduation date, your GPA, what kind of classes you've taken. Are you an accounting major? What do you graduate at 150? Things like that. Describing yourself, your interests, your values. So, why you're interested in the firm, why you're interested in whatever role you're applying for and interviewing for, things like that. Any kind of employment experience. So if it's on your resume, you should be prepared to talk about it, right? Again, you are breathing life into your resume. So anything that you've written on there, you should be able to talk about and tell me about. I want to hear it. And then describing any kind of past situations and what you've learned from them. So behavioral questions, everybody's favorite thing. You could definitely Google behavioral questions if you're curious. Some of my favorites, can you name a time where you worked on a group project and what role did you play in it? Love that one. Name a time when you've dealt with a difficult situation. How did you handle it? Or new favorite one that I heard recently was, can you name a time, or no, sorry, say that you're juggling multiple projects. How do you prioritize things? Love that one. That one's a really common one as well. Okay. To help you prepare, you should definitely develop a list of things that you could be asked. You should cover all the general categories that I just mentioned. So getting to know you questions, my favorite thing to ask you, can you give me a brief introduction of yourself? Your brief introduction, no more than 30 seconds. If we're hitting 45, that's okay. If we're hitting a minute, we need to talk about how we can kind of slim it down. But your brief introduction should cover things like, when you're graduating, where you're graduating from, what you're graduating in, what line of business you may be interested in, things like that. Behavioral questions, again, you should be prepared to answer those. If you're curious about the type of behavioral questions that you're going to be receiving, a little trick that I learned when I was first in college and interviewing, two things. You can Google behavioral questions. You can also Google like behavioral questions and then put in the company name, because a lot of times students will share what questions they've been asked and what kind of questions you can expect during the interview. That's another trick. The other thing is that a lot of times the companies that you're interviewing with, they will have kind of like an interview guide available for you. And so that's another resource that you can use as well. Role specific questions. So again, like, why are you interested in the role? Why are you interested in the company? You should be prepared to answer all of those. Buzzwords. So buzzwords are actions, right? Things like led, mentored, developed, you collaborated, and something to really help you during this process. Your resume should have action words, right? I led this project, led a team to develop this, whatever it might be. If you're not on mute, would you mind just muting yourself? Thank you so much. Whatever is on your resume, you should have those action words. Now, that being said, if you are, if those are on your resume, it makes it a lot easier to interview, because when you're talking to your interviewer, you are able to kind of utilize those words, and it really just translates very nicely, and it makes it easier, I feel like, on your brain. And again, on your resume, you should be developing themes to highlight your strengths. So, if you can kind of tell a story a little bit on your resume, use those buzzwords and use them in your interview, you are making it a lot easier on your brain. Okay. Types of interviews. So there are a few different types of interviews. Phone interviews, those are the first ones. Those are usually the first ones that you have when you're starting to go through the recruiting process with, a company. So that is usually with an HR representative or a recruiter. So typically this is the time where you're going to be asked very like administrative questions. So HR focused questions, what's your major? What's your GPA? When are you graduating? What are you involved with in school? Things like that. So a few tips: be in a place where you have good reception and minimal noise. The last thing you want is to be on the busy New York street trying to have a conversation and you keep asking your recruiter or your HR, interviewer to repeat themselves multiple times. Typically 9 times out of 10, I would say your interviewer will call you. However, there may be that one-off time where you may have to call them. So just make sure you know who's calling who. If it's over Microsoft Teams or Zoom or whatever it might be, make sure that you have that meeting information as well. Have your resume and the job description nearby. The last thing that you want to do is to be talking to me for a role at CBiz and say, oh, I am so excited to talk about this role at Grant Thornton. Whoops. So make sure that you know which role you're interviewing for and what company you're interviewing for. I know that in this day and age, we're applying to a lot of things, and that's awesome. I encourage you to apply to everything that you can and to get as many interviews you can, because Eleanor said it, the more practice that you have, the better off you are. So with that being said, I know we're applying to a lot of stuff, so it can be kind of confusing. So making sure we know, which company we're interviewing for and what we're interviewing for. Smiling, people can hear you smiling. I will tell you that when you get an offer from me or you're talking to me on the phone, I am so excited to be talking to you, giving you your offer, whatever it might be. I am smiling the whole time. I am so excited. I'm not kidding. So just keep that in mind. We can hear you smile, which is really nice. And then a tip that I like to do myself personally when I am interviewing, I like to dress in interview attire to really get myself in the mindset. I like to sit at my desk. I like to be in my full-on suit with my high heels on, and I sit there and I am ready to go. It really gets me in the zone. I'm ready to focus. I'm ready to crush my interview. No pun intended. Video interviews. So these are usually a little bit longer, 25 to 30 minutes. They could be with a recruiter. They could also be with a manager or senior. It just kind of depends on the recruiting process. So definitely finding a quiet place to be, again, with a suitable background. Now, something else I like to tell students. If you are wearing a white shirt and you are against a white wall, you are going to create green screen effect and you're going to look like a floating head. Not that I don't love floating heads, but if you are, wearing a white shirt, make sure that maybe you're against a different background or you've blurred your background so that we can really see you. Or if you have an appropriate, suitable Zoom background, your university, I have a feeling might have some of those that you can use. Those are definitely acceptable too. We just want to be aware of floating heads. Make sure that you have a good internet connection. The worst thing ever is when you're in the middle of a great story, you're bringing your resume to life, and all of a sudden the internet just shuts down because your Wi-Fi cuts out. That is a bummer. So make sure that you have good internet connection. If you're using Skype or Google Hangout, making sure that you're using an appropriate username. Now, for many, many years, my username was Pink Guitar Girl 60. I don't know how I ended up with that as my username because I don't play guitar. I've never played guitar, but I do like the color pink. So that being said, now I use my first name, my last name. Your first name, last name, safe bet. Awesome. If you want to add in your lucky number at the end for some extra luck, go ahead and do that. Close any applications that could cause any kind of distraction. Okay, we love our phone. We love our Apple Watches. We love our Microsoft Teams. We love our Zoom. We love everything, right? We want to make sure, though, that we are not distracted. So we want to make sure that we are all set to do not disturb. Your phone is flipped over. Your watch is maybe on like theater mode if we have an Apple Watch, just so that we're not like, oh my gosh, who's texting me right in the middle of your interview? Nothing worse. Again, don't be a floating head. If you need to prop up your laptop to make sure that you, have a good angle on yourself, that is completely fine and totally welcome. And then again, having a copy of your resume, the job description, and any kind of questions that you have nearby as well. on-campus interviews. We come to you, convenient. It's usually with seniors or managers. So again, confirming your location, making sure that you know where you are. We will get to this in a second, but being early, not too early, but being a little bit early is good. Be prepared to talk to some kind of company greeter in the waiting room. You might need to make a little bit of small talk, so be prepared for that. You can practice that. It's fun. Be prepared to talk about your like technical skills and more behavioral questions. And then of course, bring your resume. We usually have a copy of your resume before you come to an interview, but we always love a paper copy of your resume. It's wonderful. So definitely encourage you to bring those as well. Okay, in-office interviews, 30 minutes to 4 hours. Now, I hope you are never interviewing for 4 hours straight. That is really intense. So usually when we bring you in for an in-office interview day, we want you to come in, we want you to see the office, we want you to have a tour, we want you to have your interviews, we want to do a presentation. And I will tell you that at CBiz, we feed you, which is the best part. So, you know, that being said, that is why sometimes they can be up to 4 hours, right? You are not just interviewing for 4 hours. You know, your interview may be an hour of those 4 hours. It's usually with members of the hiring team. So that can be associates, that can be managers, that can be managing directors, whatever it might be. So it's different members of the hiring team. You can ask for an interview schedule. Hopefully they provide that to you no matter where you're interviewing. But you may not have the interviewers' names. And that's just simply because a lot of the times things can change at the last minute. Things may need to be switched around, anything like that. So typically, at least at CBiz, we don't usually give you your interviewer name, but you do have an interview schedule. So yay. Know where you're going. Usually those directions are put in a final confirmation email to you. So make sure that you are looking out on your email for that. Arriving at least 15 minutes before, but never earlier than 30 minutes. Definitely, you know, if you arrive more than 30 minutes early. Unfortunately, if you're interviewing with CBiz, you're most likely going to have to listen to my stand-up comedy routine, which I think is very funny, but you guys might not. So that being said, 15 minutes is really the sweet spot. You know, it allows you to get there on time. It allows for any kind of traffic delays. I know that we are in New York. A lot of times we are relying on public transportation. Public transportation is amazing, but sometimes there are delays. The subway's delayed, the ferry is delayed, the bus is delayed. It didn't get you where you needed to go. You missed your connection and you have to wait for the train, whatever it might be. So 15 minutes does allow to just kind of cover all that stuff. And again, this is where you'll answer about technical skills and behavioral questions. Okay, making an impression. Okay, this is a question for you guys. How would you describe these women? And if nobody answers, I'm gonna pick somebody. I'm gonna volunteer you.
Professional and casual.
Okay, awesome. Which one is professional and which one's casual?
Professional on the left-hand side, casual on the right hand.
Okay, yes, I love that answer. Thank you so much. One of the presentations I did, somebody told me that they were wearing the same shoes. So I like that answer. I didn't notice it before. Awesome. Yes. So dressing appropriately, it is important. I know that we were in COVID, we were relaxing, we were at home. I myself love a good sweatsuit, but when we are going for an interview, we want to make sure that we're dressed appropriately. Men, I feel like you have it a little bit easier than we do, but this is kind of our sliding scale. So I would call this casual. You can see jeans, we've got a t-shirt, we've got some sneakers. This I would call business casual. You know, we can say khakis. We've got 2 different kinds of shoes here. There's a variety of tops that you could wear. This is definitely business professional. So we're talking a suit, a tie, the nice shoes, you know, all of that. CBiz, we are dressed for your day. So if you're meeting with a client, you are probably going to be somewhere more in this region. If you are just going into the office, we are jeans friendly, which is nice. You're probably going to be more on this side of things. So again, dress for your day. Client, we're going to be a little bit more professional. In the office, jeans friendly. It's awesome. Okay, women. I think that a lot of times as a woman, at least when I was in college, I definitely thought this, that I needed to wear a suit every single time I went for an interview. And I love a good suit. I'm not gonna lie, I love suits. But there are other ways we can also dress, you know, more business professionally. I would call this outfit business professional. Business professional. This is kind of, you know, business casual versus business professional. This I would call business casual. So there are definitely other ways that we can dress up for work other than just our traditional suit. Again, love a good suit, but there are so many different ways and so many different outfits to be had. Okay, so with dressing appropriately, we want to make sure that we're dressing up one level from what's required. If we're business casual, we're probably going to be dressing business professional for our, interview. I had the last interview day that we had in person. I had a professional come in and he was like, "I'm so excited. I'm not the only one in the office wearing a tie today." He loves ties. He wears them every single day. So that being said, definitely dress up one level from what's required. Things that you should practice: your handshake, making eye contact, and any kind of like nonverbal communication. So hopefully you are not coming into the office and going, "Hi, how are you?" Because that doesn't send the right message. Hopefully we are going, "Hi, how are you?" And shaking hands. Arriving early, again, not too early, or otherwise you're going to be subjected to my stand-up comedy, I'm telling you right now. And then also focusing and using people's names. So of course, when you're being introduced to somebody and you're meeting them, you could totally say, "Hi, Miss Hines, how are you today?" And I would probably correct you and say, "It's okay, you can call me Emily." But it's always better to start out more formal and be corrected to be less formal than to start out less formal and be corrected to be more formal. So definitely starting out formal is preferred. Okay, it only takes, this is science, this is true science, it only takes 7 seconds to make 11 impressions about somebody. So in this time, the things that people consider: your clothes, your voice, your hairstyle, your posture and demeanor, the feel of your handshake, your personal interaction. Somebody that comes in and goes, "Hi, my name is Emily. I'm really excited to be here." That's a lot different than somebody saying, "Hi, I'm Emily. I'm really excited to be here," right? It's way different. The other thing I like to point out on this slide, okay, it says clothes and hairstyle, and that's the number one thing here. I just want to assure you, if you have piercings, if you have tattoos, if you have blue hair, I don't care. That will not deter us from hiring you at all. Okay. I do just want to assure you that any of those things, it is okay. We do not deter hiring somebody just based on, their appearance, their blue hair, their tattoos, their piercings, whatever it might be. I will still hire you with all of those things if you do well in your interview. Communication. So you're definitely saying more than just words. If you notice, your words make up about 7% of it. There is a really big difference between saying, "I'm so excited to be here," versus "I'm so excited to be here," right? It changes the whole thing. And I'm saying the same thing. It's just really changing based on my tone and how I'm presenting myself, right? So definitely when we are talking about your answers to questions, definitely, communicating with more than just your words is super important as well. Okay, some more tips. So practice as much as you can. Practice your answers out loud. I like to share this story with everybody. So before I was a campus recruiter, I did ballroom dancing, and I was a professional ballroom dancer, and I got the opportunity to try out for Dancing with Stars. Very cool opportunity. But it was a very, very rigorous process to kind of train myself for the interview. And part of that training process, I taped myself answering questions. And that was very eye-opening. I realized a few things. First of all, I talk a lot with my hands, which I am still working on clearly. But it really made me realize, my tone, how I was talking with my hands, a lot of things. So if you get the opportunity to practice and tape yourself, I definitely suggest it. I have done that since. That was many years ago that I did that, and I have used it in my professional journey. So if you get the opportunity to tape yourself and watch it back, definitely do that. I also was really bold and I sent it to some friends that I trusted that would give me feedback, and they literally played it on their TV and gave me feedback as to what I could work on during the interview process. So that was also very helpful. So if you have trusted friends like that and you want to tape yourself, be bold, be brave, do that. Definitely be prepared to tell me about yourself. Tell me about yourself. Give me a brief introduction of you. Definitely, like I said, 15 to 30 seconds. Mwah, chef's kiss, sweet spot. Any more than that, let's talk about slimming it down. I'm happy to help you. Again, taping yourself. Great, excellent. I've used that many times in my life. It's super helpful. Utilize your career center. I can tell you for a fact, you have an amazing, amazing career center. You have a great resource right at your fingertips. And typically when you graduate, you no longer have access to that resource. So my advice to all students, use your career center. Use them. They are here to help you. They want to help you. They are eager to help you. I know that they do a great job at helping you. So definitely use them. And then you can also ask your friends to be interviewers. I use this one too a lot, and they can also give you constructive feedback. So many different ways that you can practice, interviewing. When you practice, you should be utilizing your words. You should be utilizing your buzzwords. You should be highlighting themes. Again, if your resume is formatted in a way that uses your buzzwords, that utilizes those words, it makes it a lot easier during the interview process because you are more equipped with those words at the drop of a hat. Don't memorize your answers, and please don't have a script. I'm going to let you in on a little secret. If you have a script, I know. I can tell. We can tell. We have a sixth sense. So try not to memorize your answers. Try not to use a script. It's okay to have notes. That's totally fine. I encourage you to have notes that maybe highlight those themes that I was talking about. But definitely don't memorize your answers, and please don't have please don't have a script. And then again, being concise. So your answer should be less than a minute. But if it's a minute, if it's a really, really fascinating story that you're telling me and it's getting closer to 2 minutes, that is totally fine. But try to keep it at about a minute. Leading up to the day. So do your research on the company, maybe talk to some friends who have interned there or interviewed with them, or check out their LinkedIn. That's totally acceptable. Learn all you can about them. It'll definitely make you feel more prepared. If you know your interviewers' names, research them. When I was interviewing for my first big girl job, I found out my interviewers' names and I researched them so that I had something to talk to them about, and I made that personal connection with them. So definitely, if you have those resources, use them. LinkedIn is your friend, and it is okay to do a little bit of social media stalking. I do it too. Okay, so everybody does it. It's okay. And then again, having a few questions prepared. We're going to get to this, I think, in the next slide about the company, your position, your interview, or whatever it might be. Have some questions prepared. Day of, get a good night's sleep. I can't stress this enough. Sleep is good for you. It resets your brain. And then eat a healthy meal. I know that sometimes we are so nervous, our tummy is upset, but I assure you that you will feel a lot better even if you have a little granola bar in your stomach, okay? It really does help. Bring your resume, bring a notebook and a pen. My friends, we are not going to be taking notes on our iPad. We're not going to be taking notes on our phone. We are going to be taking notes with a pen and a paper. So definitely bring that if you are somebody that wants to take notes. Give yourself plenty of time to get to the location. Like I mentioned before, I know we are a lot of times relying on the New York City public transportation, and we love that. But sometimes things happen, the train doesn't come, we missed our connection, whatever it might be. So make sure that you give yourself enough time. Try to get yourself in the right headspace. So I'm going to go Tony Robbins a little bit on you for a moment. So if you need to stand in the mirror, and this is something I do, I'm not going to lie to you, I do it before my presentations and everything. I literally stand in the mirror and I go, I'm going to crush this. I'm going to do so well. I'm going to get this job. I'm going to crush this interview. I'm just going to be amazing. If you stand in front of the mirror and tell yourself that, you will start believing in it. And that is what will get you far. So if you need to do that and that gets you amped, you are the type of person maybe that likes to listen to a song. There's a particular song that you are like really, really interested in. I will tell you that for me, it is I'll Make a Man Out of You from Mulan. Not kidding. That is my pump up song. So like, if you need to get yourself in that headspace, do it. Whatever gets you in that mind space that'll say, I'm going to crush this interview, you got it. Prepping your questions. I told you it would come. So aiming to have 10 to 15 in your back pocket. Now, you're not going to use all 10 to 15 in every single interview, but depending on what kind of transpires in that interview, you want to have questions on hand. So they could be like things like forward-looking questions. How do we have any mentorship programs? How do you guys support professional goals? What is the kind of CPA support looking like? Do we have any bonuses? Are we looking at Becker Unlimited? What are we looking at here? If you're interested in a specialized field, let's say you're interested in getting into forensic accounting, like how does my career path look like there? Do we have any internship opportunities for forensic accounting? Things like that. Am I going to be traveling? Am I going to be working with different teams? Am I going to be able to visit client sites? Things like that. It's great to focus on corporate and office culture. My favorite question, what is the culture like at CBiz? How much time do we have? Not kidding. But, asking those questions, we love them. And it's totally okay. And actually, I encourage you to ask different employees the same question. It kind of gives you a baseline to see how different employees react and answer your question. Now, that being said, if you do utilize this tip. Definitely try not to pit us against each other. And by that, I mean, if you're interviewing with Joe and Mary and you ask Joe a question and then you ask Mary the same question, you go, oh, that's interesting. Joe said this. Don't do that, please. So, but it is totally okay to ask us the same questions. And in fact, I encourage you to do so because it really does give you a baseline. Unexpected questions, they're going to come up. They're going to come up, but you guys are rock stars and you'll be able to handle them. So definitely while you're thinking of these, questions, you're trying to think of an answer. It is okay to take time to answer. It's totally fine. To formulate your response, to deliver your answer with poise, because you're rock stars, so you're going to do that. And don't let it rattle you. Be prepared that there could be unexpected questions, right? Be prepared. And usually these questions come up because you've answered a question so well that we are really interested in hearing more. So we might be asking about something specific. Do not lie. Please don't invent answers. 2 reasons. First of all, we can usually tell when you've done that. Second of all, because down the line, if you were hired at that firm, it may come back to bite you, and we don't want that to happen. So don't lie, don't invent answers. And then it's totally okay to say to us, hey, that's a really great question. I'm just not sure of the answer. Or that's an interesting question. Can I have a few minutes to think about it? If you need to write us an email later with your answer, that's totally fine in your follow-up. No shame. That's perfectly acceptable. Okay, during the interview. This says the interview starts when you arrive. I say scratch that. The interview starts when you leave your house. Because I will tell you, especially in New York, you are interacting with many people on the street. You are passing by them. And I will tell you, I live in Delaware. I travel up to New York about once a month to be in my office. I have multiple times bumped into people coming out of Penn Station that I work with. So your interview starts as soon as you leave your house. So make sure, I know that you guys are kind and respectful on a daily basis, but make sure that we are definitely being kind and respectful to everybody on the day of your interview. Letting the interviewer drive the conversation. So we, most of the time, are asking you the questions, especially in the beginning. However, I said it's a two-way street. So at the end, when you're asking questions, that's the time for you to drive the conversation a little bit more. But typically the majority of the interview, the interviewer will be driving the conversation. Be aware of your facial expressions, smiling, nodding, being engaged. It's all great. Expect those behavioral-based questions. Speak about your experiences. Plan to talk about your resume. My favorite thing that candidates do when you are answering a question and you are able to relate it back, kind of like to certain skill sets and certain buzzwords. So if you're telling me about how you mentored students as a part of your volunteering, and you are able to relate it back to something that CBiz does, I love those answers. Those are great. Be prepared to answer questions. What did you learn? If you can hit that right out the gate, that is wonderful. Please don't speak negatively about past employers. I can't stress this enough. It is a red flag if we hear you bashing your employer and whatever you might be saying. It is a red flag. So try not to do that. I know that sometimes we have poor experiences, but we don't want that to affect our hopefully great experiences that you will have in the future. So that being said, if that comes up, why did you leave an employer? It is perfectly acceptable to say something along the lines of, I really enjoyed working at X company. I learned a lot during my time there. However, I just feel that I am ready to explore new experiences. And, maybe you are going from a larger company. You could say something like, I really would like to get exposure to a mid-sized firm. That's perfectly acceptable to say, but just don't bash them. Keep it basic, no salary discussion. Salaries, it is becoming more of a thing. It is becoming more of a thing that we talk about, especially during the interview process. I'm not going to lie to you. That is, though, typically something that you would discuss with a recruiter or an HR representative, not your, your manager, your managing director, anybody like that. So, salary, it is something that is being discussed more and more now, which I think is awesome, but definitely something we want to save for HR and not for our professionals. And remember, this is just a conversation. I know that we get so anxious because we forget that it's a conversation and we feel like it is the end all be all, but just remember, it is a conversation. It is a two-way street. You are able to ask questions. You are interviewing us as much as we're interviewing you. So at the end of the day, it's just two people talking. That's it. Okay, interviewer do's and don'ts. You guys can read through these. I don't need to read them to you. But basically, do all the things that we were just talking about. Making a good impression, dressing professionally, being early, making sure that our watches, our phones, our computers, everything is silenced. Be prepared to sell yourself, right? You are making your resume come to life, right? Tell me that story about your resume. I want to hear it all. And then you can also ask for a business card and definitely follow up via email. Thank you notes. We'll get to that in a minute. Don't be late. Don't wear strong scents. Sometimes people are allergic to strong scents. So I know that we all love, perfumes and things like that. But wearing strong scents, probably not a good idea. Don't discuss salary with anybody other than outside of HR. And then don't lie, don't over exaggerate, things like that. So those are our do's and don'ts. Appropriate follow-up. So writing your thank you note within 1 day of the interview. Now, I understand life happens, and it's okay. If you send me a thank you note a week after the interview, that's okay. Again, life happens, things happen. So we are understanding of that. But the best practice is 1 day. If you need to make it a week, that's fine. Thank your interviewer for a time. Now, the one thing I will say about thank you notes, the more specific you can be, the better. If you pull anything from this follow-up slide, it is the more specific you can be about your interview, when you interviewed, what you interviewed for, that personal connection that you made, the better. So being as specific as possible is really, really important. If you were pondering about one question, you were just having a little bit of trouble formulating an answer. If you need to answer that in your email, you can totally do so in your follow-up. But again, thanking them and expressing how excited you are, that's another great tip. But being specific, being excited, and answering anything that you may have missed during the interview. Okay. Dear Catherine, this is my thank you note example. This is a real thank you note I wrote. Thank you for taking the time to interview me on Monday. I was very specific. She interviewed me on Monday. I wrote that. I really enjoyed learning more about CBiz and finding out your favorite part of your job is working with your teammates. That was one of my questions I asked her. I said, what's your favorite part about working at CBiz? What is the culture like? I also thought it was so neat that there are so many different ways to get involved outside of your work, including volunteering with your office and the Young Professionals group. Again, I asked things like, what can you get involved with outside of work? Are there any resources for professionals that are just starting out? What kind of resources do you guys provide in general for employees? And then I'm so excited because I'm so excited to hear about next steps. And then please let me know if I can provide any further information. Perfect. It was specific. It was to the point. I reminded her of that personal connection we made. Now, I do just want to give you guys the heads up. Sometimes there are firewalls. We don't love them, but sometimes there are firewalls. And unfortunately, you are unable to reach your interviewer directly. If that's the case, please know that you can send it to the recruiter and the recruiter will forward it because obviously we're internal. We can talk to them. So just know that that is also an option and that may happen more often than not. Okay. The biggest thing, if this is, if your only takeaway from this is that the secret of acing a job interview is to stop believing in luck and to start believing in yourself. So I hope that you guys learned some tips and tricks from this, but you guys are really the masters of your own destiny. So you guys are going to go out there and crush your interviews. I know you will. Does anybody have any questions? You can unmute yourself and ask. Also, if you did not sign in with that QR code and you are interested in receiving emails from me, awesome. You can sign in now, but that is also my personal email address. If you have any questions that you don't want to ask in front of everybody, or you want to find a time to speak with me or whatever it might be, definitely feel free to shoot me an email here. It's just my first name, my last name @cbiz.com. I will give you guys the heads up. I just got married in November, yay. So I may be changing my last name. If that happens, you guys will be the first to know what my new email address is. But without further ado, does anybody have any questions?
Hi, Emily. I have a question. So, when I scanned the QR code, it says it asked about your final graduation date, and it asked if you're completing your 150 credit. But like, what if you're like graduating with like 120 credits? Like, would you still be able to like, um, submit the form from this QR code or no?
Yep, Totally. If
Alright.
you want to just put in your bachelor's degree date, that's fine. No worries at all. What I will say is that we have recently changed the rule a little bit. And I just realized that when I did my presentation in the fall, we literally changed it the week after. So it used to be that you had to have 150 credits in order to be a full-time associate with us. We have done away with that rule. So the way that we're kind of approaching it now is that we want you to graduate with your bachelor's degree. That is required. But your 150, we would like you to either have plans to pursue it or know that you're going to pursue it in the future. It basically boils down to you can't move past a certain point. So you can't become a manager without your CPA license. So that's kind of where our thinking is. But we understand, you know, sometimes we don't have the resources at first to get our CPA and get those credits right off the bat. So that's why we are kind of offering you to just have your 120 and be a full-time associate. So with that being said, go ahead. You can put in your bachelor's degree date, totally fine. If we ever talk, you know, definitely we can talk about all the next steps and kind of your pathways.
All right, thank you so much, and congrats on the marriage.
Thank you.
This is so amazing, Emily. Oh my God, that I didn't know about the little change. I think that's going to tremendously help a lot of our students with this little confusing thing that 120, 150, and so on. So yeah, this is amazing. And thank you for this presentation. I know if students have more questions, we'll get to it in a minute. You guys think of your questions. And I just want to, you know, chime in and say that, you know, thank you so much. I was nodding to a lot of things, if not everything. I was like, yes, exactly to the point. That's what I've been telling our students. You know, two things that I wanted to kind of mention is talking about previous employers. Guys, you might think there are a lot of accounting firms, you know, who knows? It's a small world out there. Somehow, somewhere, people know each other, whether the recruiters know each other or whether the associates or managers or partners, somehow the guys know each other. So I worked at Markham a long time ago, and 10 years later, I was interviewing for a company at a small accounting firm with a partner who used to work with at Markham. So be careful. And it didn't come in a conversation right away. It came out much later. Oh, you worked here and so on. So yes, be careful. We don't want to say anything negative, even if you had a negative experience. We're not here to tell you about the negative experience, but something that you learn from it and how you can move on and so on. So yeah, be absolutely mindful of that. Emily, I have a question for you. A lot of students struggle, maybe because they're not sure since the elevator pitch is about up to 30 to 60 seconds, what would be your advice on what students could include that will probably, you know, sell them to an employer? Like what could be included in that elevator pitch? What, you know, besides the name and what they're majoring in, what else is that students could talk about?
Okay, this is my personal preference. And the only reason why I say this is because during our specific interview process, I'm going to ask you things like what you're involved with, right? I'm going to ask you those questions. So what I'm looking for is very basic information. So you could say your name, where you go to school, what you're majoring in. If you want to tell me what service line you're interested in. So if you are interested in audit, if you're interested in tax, you're interested in advisory, naming those, that's very helpful. And if you want to just give me a quick rundown and say, you know, I'm a member of the Accounting Society and I am the vice president of this club. And, you know, I also volunteer on the weekends. That is wonderful. So that very, very high level basic information. It's more like things I don't want to hear. I'm so interested in your personal life, but I don't want to hear things about your personal life in your introduction. So, you know, if you're married with children, if you took a vacation last week, if you, you know, I'm sorry to say, if you have kids, anything, we don't want to hear that. So keep it very like professional, keep it very high level, because most likely during that process, you will be asked, you know, about what extracurriculars, and you can kind of expand upon, you know, that kind of thing. And most likely they will also be asking you like, why are you interested in working here? So even if you don't hit that right off the bat, that's totally fine. So I'd say more simple, the better. The other piece of advice I always give students, you can take it, you can leave it, whatever you want. But be yourself, be a professional version of yourself, but be yourself, right? I don't know if you can tell, I'm definitely the type of person I would love for my resume to be pink and glittery. But unfortunately that is, that's not it. So, but I definitely, we like to say on my team that we bring ourselves to work, but we definitely bring a professional version of ourselves. So making sure that you're also doing that in your elevator pitch is important.
Great, thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Anyone has any other questions? I think there were a lot of great tips that were shared. I know you probably need some time to process it, but as I mentioned before, it does take practice, right? It's to be more comfortable in your interviews. The more you practice, the better. And not only practicing saying the questions out loud, recording is an amazing suggestion too. Yes, I did it myself as well when I was interviewing, even for my current position. But also the more research you do, whether it's on the company, whether it's on the job itself, right? The better you'll be off. It will, the answer will flow naturally, right? So you don't have to, there might be times that you'll have to probably think, take the time to think, but for the most part, it will be easier for you to, once you have that research, and also research about yourself. Like, who are you? What is it you like to do? If you want to throw in a fun fact, something that's relevant to, fun fact in your elevator pitch, that's fine too. But as Emily suggested, not too much of a personal information that you can leave for much later time, right?
I did just get a question. Do I have any tips for students who don't have office experience in regards to their resume? Yes. So I can speak for CBiz, and I kind of speak for my previous experience as well. As an intern and as a first-year associate, we really do not expect you to have any experience coming in, right? We expect you to have classroom knowledge, and that's about it, because we want you to learn on the job. That's the point of an internship, really, is to take what you've learned in the classroom and apply it to the real world, and vice versa. You can take what you've learned in your internship and apply it to the classroom. So it really helps you both ways. So things that you can tell me about yourself, like, do you hold any leadership positions? Are you involved in any clubs? I know that a lot of times as accounting students, we're taking a lot of credits, we're taking a lot of classes, so maybe we're not as involved in school, like outside of school. That's okay. Tell me about projects that you've done. Tell me about your classroom work. Tell me about what skills you've learned, right? Are you also are you in accounting and you're also on the side, you're learning SQL or Python or something like that? Tell me about that. I want to know that. So even if you don't have internship or job experience, and I will tell you this. So one of my HR partners, I love her. She used to be a recruiter. She told me that, a lot of times students, they have jobs that don't relate to the field, right? She said one time she had a student who delivered pizzas, and he said, "Oh my God, I don't have any accounting experience." And she was like, "That's okay. You've learned so much delivering pizzas. You work with clients, you do. You deal with people all the time. You have great time management skills, things like that." And so he was really able to take what he had learned in pizza delivering and apply it to his internship. And she says to this day, one of the best interns she's ever had. And he works for us, I think, full time now. So that being said, you can, even if it's not accounting related or, whatever field you're going into, even if it's not related to that, it's okay. You can tell us about it. You can tell me about your projects, tell me about your skills, tell me about you learning coding languages, things like that. Tell me about your extracurriculars, especially if you hold a leadership position. I want to know about it. I want to know about that. That's important. And that obviously shows a lot of motivation. If you're holding a leadership position, you're really passionate about that. Awesome.
Absolutely. Any job that you do, right? Any job that we work at Enza, I'm sure you gain skills that you can, they're called transferable skills that you can take them and transfer sort of to another position, whether it's working with customers, as Emily suggested, right? Time management skills, organizational skills, and so on. Even as a cashier, that's great experience. Even as a waiter, there's a great barista in the Dunkin' Donuts or at any other maybe mom and pop shops or Starbucks. So all of those are great experiences. As long as you're doing something, you're showing an employer that you are being active outside of school too, right? And organized and so on. So it shows a lot. It's just being able to present it to the employer. We can definitely again meet, we can discuss that and how to best to do that, but don't be shy or don't be like, oh my God, don't let it hold it against you. So to say that you don't have relevant experience. Any experience will be a great addition to the selection process.
Yep. And we don't hold it against you if you don't have any. I assure you we don't. And you know, the other thing I will mention is that, you know, again, accounting students, I know you're busy. We're busy because we're trying to meet that 150 rule. And a lot of us, I think, are trying to fit it in 4 years. And that is challenging and that's admirable. Tell me about it. Tell me about that you're trying to do that. Tell me that you're studying for your CPA exam. Tell me how you study. That's okay. You can tell me about that. That counts. You're doing a lot. So, you know, just keep these things in mind. Again, it's all about how you sell yourself, right? If you sell yourself to me and you say, wow, you know what, Emily, unfortunately, I don't have time to do a ton of extracurriculars because I am really, really trying to get my 150. I'm starting to study for the CPA. This is my time management. It shows me time management skills. It's really applicable. So don't sell yourself short. Find out what your strengths are. And again, use your resume as a guide, right? You are bringing your resume to life. And guess what? You have an awesome career center. Okay. So use them, use them. And they will help you. And I know they will. So use them.
Absolutely great. Thank you so much. Anybody else? Anyone has any questions? If not, then we're going to wrap it up. Thank you so much, everyone, for attending. Emily, thank you so much for all the tips. I think David raised his hand. David, you have a question?
Yeah, I really like your energy. I think it's really like inspired me.
Thank you.
Yeah. Do you think like would it be okay if I just like emailed you to talk more about like, maybe applying to be like an intern?
Yes, you can totally email me and we can set up a time to talk. I will just give you guys the heads up. I typically hold coffee chats on Thursday mornings. And they're usually from about 10 to 12 on Handshake. Now, that being said, if you have class during that time, shoot me an email and we can discuss another time. I'm happy to call you one-off. I will work with your schedule. It's absolutely no worries. I do try to contain most of them to that time period just because otherwise I would be calling about 60 people a week and that would be quite a lot. So definitely, you know, sign up for a chat. If you did use that QR code to sign in with me today, you will be receiving a follow-up email that has all of our openings as well as a link to that coffee chat where you can sign up. Those will be going on from tomorrow until May 2nd. So we have quite a few weeks. So if you are, don't be discouraged if you see that, you know, the next few weeks are filled up. I have more down the line.
Yeah, and I think CBiz is having another event later today. So I posted on my LinkedIn. If anybody, whoever is not connected with me on LinkedIn, you're all more than welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a lot, we share a lot, and so on. So please find me on LinkedIn, and we can, and also join. I believe it's at 2, if I'm not mistaken, or
Yep.
is it?
It's at 2. Yep. So if you're interested,
okay.
yep, we're gonna have some panelists. It's gonna be a great time. You can also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I post a lot about CBiz, obviously.
Yes.
But it's Emily KB Hines, and you can find me there. I'm happy to connect with you.
Yeah, great. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you,
good
guys.
one.
Have a
Thank
great
you,
day.
Emily.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone.